Good morning, YouTube. It is 10 a.m. in the great state of Texas, and it is also the first Sunday in December 2021, and we're doing our Christmas bowl. We're doing Christmas-themed projects this month, or at least we're trying to. So if you saw my video last week, you noticed that I had some tinsel. And looking back at my older videos, I thought I had used this for last year's Christmas project, but I actually didn't. So this is just tinsel that I had left over, and we're going to attempt to make a bowl. You saw last week's video where I take the waste block, have this cool little piece of blank resin here on the bottom, and essentially that's going to prevent that big nasty waste block from being shown in the end project. So essentially what we're going to do is try to make a bowl with tinsel, green and red, Christmas colors. So here we go, got everything kind of lined up, tinsels in the bowl, basically gonna tape everything down. So this container is a little shallow. I was looking for my standard issue ones that I usually use, can't find them anywhere at any dollar store, so I had to pick these up instead. But it's a little shallow, so I'm thinking, you know what, it's not gonna be a problem. We're gonna fill this full of resin, and we're not gonna have an issue. However, as you'll see here in a little bit, we're gonna have some issues. So filled up this little, I think this is like a 1 quart bucket. I'm not even actually sure. I think it's like 750 mils of resin or something like that. And just getting the resin in there, taped it all down because obviously tinsel is going to float in that resin. So that's essentially why the tape is there. So got that filled in. I liked where it was essentially. Put it in the pressure pot, 4.5 hours. Take it out of the pressure pot. And it's a little shallow for what I wanted to do. And I'm going, this might not work out the way I envisioned. But I'm still thinking, okay, we can make something out of this. And if you look at the bottom there, it's concave. It's really, dimpled. So I already know what's going to happen. But I'm thinking, okay, we're going to make a cool like plate or something out of this, not necessarily a bowl. So just like all good plans on this channel, not everything goes the way that you want. So we're getting the base plate put on there, putting it onto the lathe. You can see that there's still some loose tinsel there. And just judging by the width of that, I already knew before I even got started we're going to have some issues. But just like, we've been doing this for 3 years, we worked through the problems on this channel. So getting everything nice and, kind of evened out, just like we would standard issue, get everything, nice and even. The concave bottom I was super disappointed with, and I probably will not use this particular mold again because it's just not conducive to what I want to do. So it kind of looks cool at the end. However, admittingly, this is not what I wanted it to look like. So had to do a lot of work getting a lot of superficial material off. And I took off a lot more material than I wanted, especially on the bottom. So we're going back between the gouging and the round carbide tool, just essentially just trying to get everything nice and even. And I'm starting and stopping the lathe so many times because all I'm trying to do essentially is just prevent from getting more material off than we absolutely have to. And the bottom is kind of the issue that I had because it was so concave. It made it a lot more difficult to kind of get everything nice and even. But, you got to do what you got to do in these projects. But, like I said, this is only our first holiday project for December. There will be more in the future, so don't worry. So getting everything nice and even on the bottom. Didn't have a lot of issue here. Essentially, the biggest problem that I had during this project was just getting everything kind of down nice and even. So once we got that done, you can see all the good ribbons and shavings we're getting off of there. Everything's pretty much nice and smooth. I'm just kind of really disappointed that this is going to turn out to be super duper small. So here's another angle. Again, just trying to get everything nice and even. Taking real shallow strokes with the round carbide tool, trying to get everything just smoothed out, because once we've done this part, the gouging part doesn't take incredibly long. So here we are, and then you can see my forehead right there. Always wear your protective equipment. Sorry for the shoddy camera work. I'm working on it. Wish I had a gimbal on top of this so it would just make it a little bit easier. But once we got that all nice and even, now we're going to go ahead and just make the mortise. And this part kind of had me scared because it was so shallow. I knew not to go too deep with it. So usually I'll go a little bit deeper than I usually do on this one. But I was just trying to get something, to the depth where we can just reverse it on the chuck to where it wasn't incredibly deep, because we did want to make a more shallow type presentation on the bowl itself. So this part went relatively easy, getting it all the way down to a nice depth, coming back, fitting the actual mold itself, getting some good shavings off, coming back, resizing, and now we're flipped over on the chuck. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is try to salvage as much material as humanly possible on this. And of course, typically we'll just go ahead and take the waste block, and we're just going to eat through that with the chisels. And on this part, I'm trying to get all that like free flowing tinsel off of it, trying not to, get that everywhere, or trying not to have it hit me in the face, essentially. And we're just, working the chisels back and forth. Square carbide tool is really good for this part of it. It pretty much eats away at that entire waste block there, so we don't have a lot of issues there. And I'm just trying to save as much of this bowl as humanly possible. And you can see there, what you might not have seen when I, showed you the blank itself was, for some reason, when it was in the pressure pot, it molded funny. It didn't mold it or adhere exactly to what the shape of the bowl was. So I had to come back and get a lot more of that material down. So that even made it more shallow than it initially was. So more material had to be taken off just to make everything nice and even, or I was going to have this really nasty divot inside of it, which would have made it look absolutely horrendous. So by this point, we're getting some pretty good shavings off. Love that camera angle, by the way, just shooting at it at the lens. The only problem with that is it gumps up the actual lens, and I have to stop and clean the camera off so you guys can see what I'm actually doing here. So coming back, just getting rid of this waste block finally. That last part is going to fly off the lathe. And now we're just getting everything nice and even and flush, and now we are ready to start the actual gouging part here in just a little bit, once we get everything nice and even. And this is just pine board, obviously, so this goes by really, really smooth. Not a whole lot of problems with the center part of it. That's why I like to use the pine. It's really nice and smooth, and I suggest using that for waste blocks. I used to use like a different material of just random woods, but I found that doing that is a mixture between soft and hard woods, and it makes it a lot more difficult. So just stick with pine. It's soft, it's easy, it's a lot more I think a lot easier on the chisels. So now all we're doing is we're trying to make a lip of the bowl. You can see that I've already gone down, got the waste block off of there, and you can see where that small little cube is on the bottom of it. And there's still some glue on there, so I'm trying to take real easy passes with the chisels. I'm going between the gouge and the round carbide tool here, and we're just trying to make a little bit of a dish. Essentially, this is just a soap dish. I think that's what I'm going to end up calling this. Is just like a Christmas dish, probably. And now we're just trying to get everything nice and even on the sides there, and we're probably going to make another pass here or there, trying to make everything just nice, even, and flush. But overall, not exactly what I was shooting for, just like I said earlier in the video. But it looks really cool, though. The finishing project, I wish I would have done a little bit, obviously I wish it would have turned out a lot different, and I'll probably come back and try this again at some point, maybe next Christmas. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, obviously, you saw the blank itself when we started, and this is pretty much all that's left. So here are all the shavings from it. Even this small little project, tons and tons of shavings everywhere. But, I love shavings. That's always a good thing. And this is all that's left. Excuse me. And now we're just going to go ahead and start my favorite part, which is cleanup and sanding. Because you guys know how much I love sanding. Look at those cool ribbons there. And you can't really tell, but there's a mixture of green and red in there from the actual shaving part. And it's all over the wall. That'll take forever to clean up. And if you ever are curious of how long it takes me to clean up after doing a bowl like this, it takes anywhere from, I'd say, 30 to 40 minutes. I get pretty in-depth because I just don't like a mess. I have horrible OCD, so it has to be absolutely clean in there. So went between the dry sanding 340 all the way up to 1500, then coming back and just hitting it with the micro mesh, doing our wet sanding, and it looks really cool. Like I said, I wish it would have turned out a lot better, but we have something to show for it at the end, just hitting it with that wax polish that we typically will use, looking real nice and neat. And you can see the tinsel in there, crystal clear resin, just giving a good quick polish. Overall really happy with it. Anytime we have something to show for our work, that's always a plus, always a win. Working through the problems, learning from our mistakes. So here it is. You can see what's left of it. And this is just a plate. I'm going to call this like a Christmas plate. It's not a bowl, it's just a plate. Probably my first plate that I've made. So overall, really happy with it. And like I said, we're going to try to do another Christmas themed project next week as well. But here you are, Christmas plate. All nice and done. The tinsel looks cool. I think it looks really cool. So I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys got something out of it. I hope everybody's going to have a good holiday this year. And hey, don't forget to subscribe and comment and like it and all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next project. It's going to be better. Promise. All right. Peace. All right. So project is done. Here it is. This little guy. This is like a soap dish versus anything else that it could possibly resemble. I obviously, over the commentary, went over some of the problems I had with it, straight from the pouring all the way up until the turning. But, I mean, overall, it's not our conventional large bowl that we usually do, but you can put stuff. This is a cool little dish. It's clear. It doesn't have that wood on there that we would typically have in projects. Today is actually November 26th. It's the day before Thanksgiving. So you guys are watching this the second week in December. So I think we're just gonna stick with a Christmas themed December. This looks absolutely gorgeous. I love the way the tinsel looks. Even though it's not large, it's like a soap dish or something you could totally do stuff with. But overall, really happy the way it turned out. We worked the problem, all about showing failure on this channel. I wouldn't call this a real failure. It's just we had some difficulties and we just managed to get through them. So I'm overall happy with the construction of this one. I think it looks absolutely cool. We could have done it a little bit better, and we will in the future. I'm sure I'll come back and do something like this, but absolutely love the way this turned out. Hope you guys liked it. Hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. Hope you guys are all going to have a good holiday, and I'll see you guys in the next project. So don't forget to subscribe and like it, share it, and leave a comment. All right, so I'll see you guys in the next project. All right, peace.